The stars shined brightly in the darkness of space. Among them, 30 large ships moved silently toward a yellow star and its planets. These ships belonged to the Zalarian hegemony, aliens who ruled many star systems. Their ships were powerful, with weapons that could destroy cities. Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the largest of the 30 vessels. He was tall with blue skin and 4 arms. His yellow eyes narrowed as he looked at the screen showing their target, the 3rd planet from the yellow star. "Status report," he ordered, his voice deep and confident. Officer Kraltex, smaller than the commander but just as blue, quickly answered. "The primitive planet shows signs of basic technology, Commander. They have small space stations and simple rockets. No defense systems detected beyond their moon. Standard Class 3 civilization." Vexthor smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Excellent. This will be an easy conquest. Prepare the standard message of surrender. If they resist, we will show them a small demonstration of our power." The Zalarian hegemony had conquered many worlds this way. They would arrive, demand surrender, and fire their weapons at empty land to show their strength. Most planets gave up quickly after that. "It should take only 2 days to secure this system," Vexthor said to his officers. "The Grand Sovereign will be pleased with our efficiency." On Earth, in a mountain hidden deep in North America, alarms suddenly blared throughout a secret facility. Red lights flashed as military personnel ran to their stations. In the main control room, screens showed mysterious objects approaching from beyond Neptune. Admiral Helena Chen walked briskly into the room. She was 55 years old with short, black hair streaked with gray. Her uniform was crisp and decorated with medals from years of service. Despite the chaos, her voice remained calm. "What do we have?" she asked, looking at the main screen. 30 objects, ma'am," replied Lieutenant Santos, his fingers flying over his keyboard. "They're large, moving at speeds we can't achieve. Definitely not asteroids or natural phenomena. They're heading straight for Earth." Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral, but her eyes revealed her concern. Humanity had wondered for centuries if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it didn't look friendly. "How long until they reach Earth?" she asked. "At current speed, approximately 48 hours, Admiral." Chen nodded and turned to her second-in-command, Colonel Wei. "Activate the Sentinel protocol. I want all information restricted to level Alpha clearance only. No public announcements. Yet we don't want panic." Colonel Wei's eyes widened. "The Sentinel protocol, but ma'am, that's only for confirmed alien contact." Chen finished his sentence. "Which is exactly what we have. Now, who do we have in the outer system that can intercept?" Lieutenant Santos checked his screen. "Only the Stellar Reconnaissance Force, ma'am. Captain Rodriguez's group, 12 ships on deep space patrol near the Jupiter stations." Chen knew those ships well. They weren't built for combat. They were scouts, explorers designed to map new territories and establish first contact if necessary. Each carried a crew of 30, mostly scientists and engineers, with minimal defensive capabilities. "That's all we have in position," she said thoughtfully. "Our main fleet is still in Earth orbit, and mobilizing them would take too long." Colonel Wei looked alarmed. "Admiral, you can't be considering sending scout ships against whatever that is. They're outnumbered and outgunned." Admiral Chen walked to the large window overlooking a massive underground hangar. Below, engineers worked around several sleek spacecrafts unlike anything the public had seen. "The SRF ships have the experimental, shield harmonics, and the new propulsion systems," she said. "And they have the best crews we've trained. They're not just scouts, Colonel. They're our first line." She turned back to the room. "Contact Captain Rodriguez immediately. Tell her to intercept at Mars orbit. They are to assess the visitor's intentions and capabilities. If hostile, delay them as long as possible while we prepare Earth's defenses." Captain Maya Rodriguez was sleeping when the urgent message came through. The 35-year-old commander of the SRS Pathfinder quickly read the alert on her tablet, then jumped out of bed. Within minutes, she had gathered her senior officers in the ship's conference room. "We have confirmed alien contact," she told her shocked crew, showing them the sensor readings from Earth. 30 vessels, technology far beyond our public capabilities, heading directly for Earth. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Commander Hiroshi Tanaka whistled softly. 30 ships against our 12? Those aren't good odds, Captain. Maya's dark eyes flashed with determination. No, they're not. But we're not here to win a battle. We're here to gather intelligence and buy time. She pulled up a holographic display of Mars and its moons. Admiral Chen wants us to intercept, here near Deimos. We'll use the moon for cover and observe these visitors before making contact. Engineer Sarah Williams raised her hand. Captain, should we bring the experimental systems online? Maya nodded. Full activation of all systems. For the first time, we'll be using everything these ships can do. She looked around at her crew, seeing the mix of fear and resolve on their faces. I know we're exploration vessels, she said softly. We signed up to discover new worlds, not fight wars. But right now, we're all that stands between Earth and whatever is coming. If they're peaceful, fantastic, we'll welcome them properly. If not, she straightened her shoulders. We'll show them humans aren't as primitive as they might think. Commander Vexthor watched as his fleet passed the red planet's orbit. Soon, they would reach the blue world, and another conquest would be added to his record. Commander, one of his officers called out. We're detecting 12 small vessels moving from the large gas planet toward the red planet. They appear to be from the target world. Vexthor laughed. Only 12? They send such a small greeting party? Scan them. After a moment, the officer reported. Primitive design, sir. Chemical propulsion with some solar assistance. Minimal weapon signatures. They appear to be scientific vessels. The commander nodded with satisfaction. They send scientists to meet warriors. How typical of a species about to be conquered. They don't even understand what's happening. He settled back in his command chair. Continue on course. If these humans wish to witness our arrival up close, we shall grant them that honor before we take their world. Little did he know that the simple-looking human ships carried technology and crews that would soon shock the Zalarian fleet. The small scout force was about to change the commander's understanding of humanity forever. The 12 human scout ships gathered near Deimos, the smaller moon of Mars. They positioned themselves in a loose formation, hidden partially by the moon's shadow. Captain Maya Rodriguez looked at the main screen of the SRS Pathfinder, where the 30 alien vessels grew larger as they approached. All ships report ready, Captain, said Lieutenant Commander Tanaka. His usually calm face showed tension around his eyes. Maya nodded. Open a channel to all SRF ships. When the faces of the other 11 captains appeared on her screen, Maya took a deep breath. We all know the situation. 30 unknown vessels against our 12. We're not here to win a battle. We're here to learn about them and buy time, for Earth. We have technologies they don't expect us to have. Use them wisely. Captain Lee of the SRS Explorer spoke up. What if they're peaceful? Then we welcome them, Maya answered. But their formation suggests military purpose. We hope for peace but prepare for the alternative. The captains nodded, and Maya continued. Remember your training. We're scouts, not battleships, but we're also humans, and humans adapt. Pathfinder out. Commander Vexthor watched the small human vessels with amusement. They had positioned themselves near the red planet's moon, as if that would hide them from Zalarian sensors. Look at their primitive ships, he said to his officers. Such basic design. They probably think they're being clever. His tactical officer Zexala displayed the readings on the main screen. These vessels have minimal weapons, Commander. They appear to be exploration craft. Vexthor laughed. They send explorers to meet conquerors, how foolish. Send them our standard greeting, let them know their world now belongs to the hegemony. On the Pathfinder, a message appeared. The aliens had sent a communication in multiple mathematical sequences that the ship's computer quickly decoded into basic language. They're demanding our surrender, reported Communications Officer Chen. They claim ownership of our solar system now and request that all human military forces stand down immediately. Maya's face hardened. Send them our response. The one we prepared. The message they sent back was carefully crafted, a mix of peaceful greeting and firm boundaries. It welcomed the aliens to the solar system but made it clear that Earth was not accepting any claims of ownership. "Message sent, Captain," Officer Chen said. "They're responding. They seem confused by our answer." "They expected immediate surrender," Maya said. "They're not used to species who talk back." She turned to her weapons officer. "Are our systems ready?" Lieutenant Park nodded. "All experimental systems online. Shield harmonics at full capacity. Gravity lens weapons charged." "Good," Maya replied, "because I don't think they're here to make friends." Commander Vexthor read the human response with growing irritation. Instead of fear or surrender, they had sent a message that was both diplomatic and defiant. This wasn't the reaction he expected from a primitive species. "They refuse our claim," he told his officers with disbelief. "They welcome us as visitors but deny our right to their system." His second-in-command, Subcommander Drez, frowned. "This is unusual behavior for a Class 3 civilization. Perhaps they don't understand their situation." "Then we shall make it clear," Vexthor said sharply. "Target their lead vessel. Minimal power, just enough to cripple it. Show them what happens to those who defy the hegemony." Captain Rodriguez saw the alien ship adjusting its position. Years of training told her what was coming. "They're targeting us," she said calmly. "All ships, execute pattern Sigma. Now." As the alien weapon fired, something unexpected happened. The human vessels moved in ways that should have been impossible for their apparent technology level. They scattered in 12 different directions, using the moon's gravity to increase their speed, executing turns that would crush beings without advanced inertial dampening systems. The Pathfinder didn't just evade, it spun on its axis while accelerating, revealing hidden thrusters that weren't visible before. The alien shot missed completely. Commander Vexthor stood up from his chair in shock. "Impossible! How did they move like that?" His tactical officer was frantically checking readings. "Unknown, Commander. Their ships just displayed acceleration and maneuverability far beyond what our scans indicated." "It must be a malfunction in our targeting systems," Vexthor insisted. "Fire again. Full battery this time." Maya watched as the aliens prepared for another attack. This time they weren't firing just one weapon. "They're bringing all weapons to bear," reported Lieutenant Park. "Multiple targeting locks." Maya smiled grimly. "Time to show them what else we can do. Activate adaptive shields and execute attack. Pattern Delta 3. As the alien weapons fired, the human ships did something that astonished the Zolarians. Their shields flickered with colors that changed rapidly, adapting to each type of energy weapon fired at them. Most of the alien shots were absorbed or deflected. Meanwhile, the human vessels split into 4 groups of 3. Each group targeted a different alien ship, firing weapons that didn't shoot energy or projectiles but instead distorted space itself around their targets. On his flagship, Vexthor couldn't believe what he was seeing. 4 of his ships were suddenly drifting, their engines struggling against invisible forces pulling them in multiple directions. "What are they using against us?" he demanded. Zexala looked up from her console, her blue face now pale. "Some kind of gravity manipulation, Commander. They're creating localized distortions in space. Our engines can't compensate." "Impossible." Vexthor slammed his fist down. "They're a primitive species. They shouldn't have this technology." "Nevertheless," said Sub-Commander Drez, pointing to the screen, "they're using it effectively." Vexthor watched in growing horror as the small human vessels executed complex maneuvers around his larger ships. They were using the Zolarian size against them, staying in blind spots, avoiding the main weapon arrays. "Change tactics," he ordered. "Spread the fleet out. Don't let them isolate our ships." But the human vessels seemed to anticipate this move. They quickly regrouped and changed their attack pattern, now focusing on disabling weapon systems rather than engines. Captain Rodriguez nodded with satisfaction as she watched the alien fleet's formation break apart. "They're responding exactly as predicted," she said to her bridge crew. "They rely too much on their size and power. They don't expect creativity." "Captain," called out Lieutenant Commander Tanaka, "the Explorer and the Seeker are reporting shield damage. They can't take much more direct fire." Maya frowned. Despite their advanced technology, The scout ships weren't built for prolonged combat. Tell them to fall back and use Mars for cover. We've learned what we needed to know. She opened a channel to all ships. This is Captain Rodriguez. We've accomplished our mission. We've tested their weapons and tactics. Now it's time for Phase 2. The human ships began a coordinated retreat toward Mars, but this wasn't a panicked flight. Each movement was calculated to draw the aliens into a specific position. Commander Vexthor felt some of his confidence returning as he watched the human ships retreat. "They run," he announced. "Their primitive vessels cannot stand against us, after all." But Tactical Officer Zexala wasn't convinced. "Commander, their retreat pattern is too orderly, and they're moving toward the red planet in a specific formation." "It doesn't matter," Vexthor said. "Pursue them. We will show these humans the price of defiance." As the Zalarian fleet moved after the human ships, they didn't realize they were following exactly the path Captain Rodriguez had planned, a path that would lead them straight into the next phase of humanity's defense. The red planet Mars hung in space, its rusty surface marked by ancient valleys and mountains. Around it, bright flashes of light signaled the battle that had begun. The 12 human scout ships split into 3 groups of 4, diving toward the Martian atmosphere with the alien fleet in pursuit. "They're following us exactly as planned," Captain Maya Rodriguez said, watching the tactical display on the Pathfinder's bridge. Groups 2 and 3 begin dust cloud maneuvers. Group 1, prepare for high-orbit ambush. 8 of the human ships descended into the Martian atmosphere, diving into the planet's famous dust storms. The swirling red clouds quickly hid them from visual sensors. The other 4 ships, including the Pathfinder, looped around Mars's smaller moon Phobos, using its gravity to accelerate. Commander Vexthor watched with growing frustration as the human vessels disappeared from view. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Find them immediately." Tactical Officer Zexala worked frantically at her station. "Their ships have some kind of stealth technology, Commander. When they enter the dust clouds, our sensors can't distinguish them from the natural magnetic anomalies on the planet." "Split the fleet," Vexthor ordered. 20 ships follow those that entered the atmosphere. The rest with me to hunt down the others. Deep in the red dust storms of Mars, Captain Lee of the SRS Explorer guided his ship through narrow canyons, where no ship its size should have been able to navigate. Behind him, 3 massive alien vessels struggled to follow, their larger size making them clumsy in the tight spaces. "Ready for maneuver Sandstorm," he told his crew. "Remember, timing is everything." As his ship rounded a large rock formation, it suddenly cut all engines and drifted. The 3 pursuing alien ships flew past, expecting the human vessel to continue forward. Before they could correct their course, the Explorer powered up again and fired its gravity lens weapons at the canyon walls. Huge boulders and stones were pulled loose by the precisely targeted gravity fields, crashing down on the alien ships. One vessel was completely buried, its engines sputtering and dying. The other 2 suffered damage to their weapon systems and sensors. Meanwhile, in another part of the Martian surface, Captain Reyes of the SRS Horizon implemented a different tactic. Her ship flew low over the surface, its heat signature blending with the warm areas of the planet. 4 alien ships followed, firing constantly but missing as the horizon zigzagged unpredictably. "Approaching target zone," announced her navigator. "Good," Reyes replied. "Deploy the drones." From the horizon, 20 small unmanned drones launched. Each was barely larger than a basketball but carried powerful electronic warfare systems. They scattered, surrounding the pursuing alien vessels, and began broadcasting confusing signals on all frequencies. The alien ships suddenly stopped firing, their targeting systems overwhelmed by the conflicting data. In their confusion, 2 of them collided, causing significant damage to both. High above Mars, Captain Rodriguez watched the battle from her tactical display. 8 alien ships had been disabled or severely damaged by the surface teams. Now it was her group's turn. "They think we're running," she told her bridge crew. "But what we're really doing is dividing their forces. Begin Operation Hammer." The 4 ships in her group had been hiding behind Phobos, using its mass to shield them from the alien sensors. Now they burst from cover, but instead of fleeing, They accelerated directly toward the center of the alien formation. Commander Vexthor couldn't believe his eyes. The human ships, which had seemed to be retreating, were now charging straight at his vessels. "They're committing suicide," he said, confused by this apparent death wish. Sub-Commander Drez wasn't so sure. "This isn't logical, Commander. They've shown too much tactical skill to make such an obvious mistake." Just as the human ships were about to collide with the alien vessels, they executed a maneuver that the Zalarians had never seen before. The human vessels projected what looked like energy bubbles around themselves, then deliberately sideswiped the alien ships. The energy bubbles acted like hammers, transferring massive kinetic force to the alien vessels without damaging the human ships. 3 Zalarian vessels spun out of control, their engines overloading from the sudden stress. Commander Vexthor gripped his control panel as his flagship shuddered from a near miss. "What was that?" he demanded. "Some kind of energy manipulation," reported Zexala, her voice showing rare fear. "They're converting their ship's momentum into directed force." Vexthor stared at the display, watching as the small human vessels continued their hit-and-run attacks, moving too quickly for his larger ships to target effectively. "These cannot be simple scout ships," he said slowly, a terrible realization dawning on him. "No exploration vessel fights like this." "Commander," Zexala called out, "we've lost contact with the planetary assault group. 11 of our vessels are no longer responding. 11 ships lost, more than a third of his fleet. This was impossible. This was a disaster. Send emergency signals to all remaining vessels," he ordered. "New formation, defensive cluster. On the Pathfinder, Lieutenant." Park reported, "Captain, they're changing formation, pulling back and grouping together." Maya nodded. This was the moment she had been waiting for. "All ships, converge on my position. Prepare for Phase 3. The human vessels, which had been scattered across Mars and its orbit, now began moving. In a coordinated pattern, gathering near the Pathfinder. They had lost 2 ships in the battle, but the remaining 10 had inflicted far more damage than anyone could have expected. Captain Rodriguez called Lieutenant Commander Tanaka. "The SRS Seeker and Discovery are heavily damaged. They can't continue fighting." Maya made a quick decision. "Order them to fall back to Phobos base. The rest of us will continue with the plan." She opened a channel to all remaining ships. "We've shown them we're not easy prey. Now we're going to show them something else. That humans never give up. Pathfinder out." In the Zalarian fleet, panic was beginning to spread. What had started as a routine conquest mission had turned into a battle for survival. "Commander," Vexthor paced on his bridge, trying to understand what was happening. "How are they beating us?" he asked no one in particular. "They should be primitive. Their technology should be inferior." Tactical Officer Zexala had been analyzing the battle data. "Commander, I have a theory," she said hesitantly. "Speak. These humans fight differently. Not just their technology, but their tactics. Each of their ships operates independently, yet somehow coordinated. They don't follow standard battle protocols. They improvise, adapt to our movements faster than we can adjust our own." Sub-Commander Drez added, "And they're using the environment, the moons, the planet's atmosphere, the dust storms, in ways we never considered." Vexithor was about to respond when a new alert sounded. The human ships were on the move again, and this time, they were all coming directly toward his flagship. Evasive. "Maneuvers," he ordered, but he knew with a sinking feeling that his larger ships couldn't outmaneuver the nimble human vessels. As the human scout ships approached, flying in perfect formation, Commander Vexthor made a decision that no Zalarian commander had made in over 100 conquests. "All ships," he commanded, his voice tight with suppressed rage. "Prepare to withdraw to the outer system. We need to regroup and reassess." The Battle of Mars had ended. The human scout force, outnumbered and supposedly outgunned, had forced the mighty Zalarian fleet to retreat, and Captain Maya Rodriguez, watching the alien ships begin their withdrawal, knew that the real battle was just beginning. The remaining 19 Zalarian ships moved slowly beyond Neptune's orbit. They had withdrawn from Mars in what Commander Vexthor refused to call a retreat. Strategic repositioning, he called it instead. But everyone in the fleet knew the truth. They had lost 11 ships to a force that should have been easily defeated. It was unprecedented in the history of the Zalarian hegemony. Never had a Class 3 civilization caused such damage to their forces. Commander Vexthor stood in the war room of his flagship, looking at the three-dimensional display of the solar system. Around him gathered his surviving officers, their blue, faces grim. "Report," he ordered, his voice tight with controlled anger. Sub-Commander Drez stepped forward. 19 ships remain operational, though 7 have significant damage. Repairs are underway, but will take at least 12 hours to complete. Vexthor nodded stiffly. And what of the human vessels? Tactical Officer Zex Allah brought up images of the human ships. They've withdrawn to Mars orbit. They appear to be regrouping as well. 2 of their vessels were destroyed and 2 more were damaged. 8 against 19, Vexthor said. We still outnumber them. We can still succeed. But there was doubt in his voice. For the first time in his career, Commander Vexthor felt uncertain. These humans had defied all expectations. What else might they be capable of? "I want answers," he said sharply. "How did they defeat us? What is the true nature of their technology?" Junior tactician Mesra, a young Zalarian who had only recently joined the fleet, raised her hand hesitantly. Vexthor nodded for her to speak. "Commander, I've been analyzing their communications," she said. "There's something unusual that I noticed." She brought up a recording of intercepted human transmissions. They consistently refer to themselves as the Stellar Reconnaissance Force, and their ships have SRS designations. She paused. "In our own military structure, what does reconnaissance indicate?" Vexthor frowned. "Scout units, advanced forces." His eyes widened as he understood the implication. "Are you suggesting?" Mesra nodded. "These might not be their main combat vessels, Commander. They might be scout ships." The room fell silent as the officers processed this possibility. "That's absurd," said Officer Kraltex. "No scout ships could possess the technology we witnessed." "But what if they do?" Zexala asked quietly. "What if these are truly their reconnaissance vessels?" Vexthor turned to his science officer. "Scan the inner system. Focus on their planet and its moon. I want to know what else is out there." Back at Earth, Admiral Helena Chen watched the sensor readings with satisfaction. The scout ships had performed beyond expectations, forcing the alien fleet to retreat beyond Neptune. "Get me Captain Rodriguez," she ordered. When Maya's face appeared on the screen, Admiral Chen smiled. "Excellent work, Captain. Your tactics were brilliant." Maya looked tired but proud. "Thank you, Admiral. We lost the Discovery and the Pioneer. Good cruise." Her face showed grief for a moment. "But we've learned a lot about our visitors. They're strong, but inflexible. They rely too much on their technological superiority and don't adapt well to unexpected situations." Chen nodded. "And now they're regrouping. What do you think they'll do next?" "They'll come back," Maya said confidently. "Their commander seems proud he won't accept defeat, but next time they'll be more cautious, more prepared." "Then so must we," Chen replied. She pressed a button, and the view on her screen widened to show a large hangar beneath the lunar surface. Inside were dozens of ships, larger and more powerful than the scout vessels. "The main fleet is ready. 70 vessels, including 20 battleships." Maya's eyes widened. "The entire defense force?" Chen nodded. "Plus the new orbital platforms. We're deploying everything." "The aliens will be in for quite a surprise," Maya said with a grim smile. "Indeed," Chen agreed. "But first, I need your scout forces to continue monitoring them. Keep your distance, but don't lose track of them. We need to know when they make their move." On the Zalarian flagship, the science team reported their findings to Commander Vexthor. "Commander, we've detected unusual energy signatures from the human's moon," said the lead scientist. "There appears to be a large base on the far side, hidden from the planet's view." "What kind of base?" Vexthor demanded. "Military, most likely. And there's more. We're detecting what appear to be shipyards in orbit around their planet, much larger than what would be needed for the vessels we encountered. Vexthor walked to the viewport, staring at the distant yellow star that was this system's sun. So the ships we fought were almost certainly not their main fleet, confirmed Zexala. All evidence suggests they were exactly what their communications indicated: reconnaissance vessels. The commander felt a chill run through him. If these were merely scout ships, what would their actual warships be like? But he couldn't retreat. The hegemony had never failed in a conquest mission. The penalty for such failure was severe, often fatal for the commander responsible. We still have superiority in numbers and firepower, he said firmly. If we can't defeat their main forces, we can at least strike at their infrastructure. Tactical, prepare a new battle plan. We will target their moon base. Commander, Sub-Commander Drez said cautiously. If we were wrong about their scout ships, might we also be wrong about the defenses of this base? Vexthor glared at him. What would you suggest? That we flee? That we tell the Grand Sovereign we were defeated by a primitive species scout ships? We must salvage this mission or none of us will see our homeworld again. The officers fell silent, knowing he spoke the truth. Failure was not an option in the hegemony. Prepare the ships, Vexthor ordered. We attack in 14 hours. Captain. Rodriguez received the alert from one of her sensor officers. Captain, the alien fleet is on the move. They're heading toward Earth again. Maya was resting in her quarters after the battle but immediately jumped to her feet. Alert all ships. Prepare to follow at a safe distance and send a message to Admiral Chen. They're coming back. Within minutes, she was on the bridge of the Pathfinder watching as the alien fleet accelerated toward the inner system. They're not heading directly for Earth, reported Lieutenant Park. Their trajectory suggests they're aiming for the moon. Maya frowned. They must have detected Luna Base. This isn't good. She opened a channel to Admiral Chen. Admiral, the aliens are targeting the moon. They must know about our main fleet. Chen's face showed no surprise. As expected, they're desperate. This works in our favor, Captain. Continue as planned. After the transmission ended, Lieutenant Commander Tanaka looked concerned. They're heading into a trap, aren't they? Maya nodded. Admiral Chen has been preparing for this possibility since we first detected them. The lunar defense grid is fully operational and the main fleet is ready. She looked at the tactical display, where the alien ships moved steadily toward Earth's moon. They think they're being clever, striking at what they believe is our main base. But they're actually doing exactly what we want. And what's that? Asked Tanaka. Maya's expression was grim but determined. Bringing their remaining ships within range of our actual defenses. Commander Vexthor watched as his fleet approached. The humans' moon. They had managed to repair most of the damage to their ships and he had reorganized their formation for better defense against the humans' unusual tactics. No sign of pursuit from the scout ships, reported Officer Kraltex. They're watching us, Vexthor said. I can feel it, but it doesn't matter. Once we destroy their main base, they'll have no choice but to surrender. Approaching lunar orbit, announced the navigator. Vexthor straightened his uniform. Prepare all weapons. Target their main energy signatures. We will show these humans the true power of the hegemony. Little did he know that Admiral Chen and the entire Earth Defense Force were waiting, hidden just beyond the moon's dark side. The trap was set, and the Zalarians were heading straight into it. As the alien fleet moved into position around the moon, Vexthor gave the order to fire. But before their weapons could activate, dozens of new signals appeared on their sensors, rising from behind the moon like predators emerging from hiding. Commander! Zexala's voice was filled with panic. Multiple new contacts. 70. No, more. They're everywhere. Commander Vexthor stared in horror at the screen, where a massive human fleet, far larger and more powerful than the scout ships they had faced, now surrounded his remaining vessels. This can't be, he whispered, but the evidence was right in front of him. The scout ships had been just that, scouts, and now they were facing humanity's real military power. Commander Vexthor stared at the tactical display in stunned silence. Surrounding his 19 remaining ships were 70 human vessels of various sizes. Many were 3 times larger than his flagship. Their energy signatures were off the charts. "How? Did we miss this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "They kept them hidden behind their moon," Zexala replied, frantically trying to analyze the new threat. "Powered down until we were in position." A massive human vessel moved to the center of their formation. It dwarfed even the largest Zalarian ship. The design was similar to the scout ships they had fought, but far more imposing, with multiple weapon arrays visible along its hull. "Incoming transmission from the human vessel," announced the communications officer. Vexthor straightened his shoulders. Even in defeat, a Zalarian commander showed dignity. On screen, the image of an older human female appeared. She wore a dark uniform with many symbols on it. "I am Admiral Helena Chen of the Earth Defense Force," she said calmly. "You have entered our solar system with hostile intent, attacked our scout vessels, and now threaten our lunar colonies. You have one chance to surrender." Vexthor stared at the human. "Scout vessels?" he repeated. "You claim those ships were merely scouts?" Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral. "The Stellar Reconnaissance Force is our exploratory division. They're scientists and cartographers, not our main combat force." She gestured, and the display showed the massive fleet surrounding the Zalarian ships. "This is our actual defense fleet. What you're facing now is the full military might of Earth." Vexthor felt his heart sink. If the scout ships had caused so much damage, what could these warships do? "I demand proof," he said, trying to buy time. "How do I know you're not bluffing?" Admiral Chen nodded to someone off-screen. "A demonstration, then." One of the human battleships moved forward. A beam of bright energy shot from it, precisely hitting a small asteroid nearby. The space rock didn't just explode, it disintegrated completely, leaving nothing but dust. The Zalarian bridge crew watched in silence. Their most powerful weapons couldn't do that. "That was at 10% power," Admiral Chen said. "We have 70 ships with similar capabilities. Your next move, Commander." On the bridge of the EDF Defender, Admiral Chen watched the alien commander's reaction with satisfaction. The demonstration had worked perfectly. Colonel Wei stood beside her. "Do you think they'll surrender?" Chen shook her head slightly. "Not immediately. From what Captain Rodriguez reported, they're too proud. But I want them to understand the situation clearly." "Admiral," called out one of her officers, "we're detecting power buildups in the alien vessels. They might be preparing to attack." Chen frowned. "That would be unwise. Tactical. Target their weapon systems only. Disable. Don't destroy." Commander Vexthor knew he had no chance of victory, but surrender meant execution back home. Between certain death later or possible death now, he chose to fight. "Target their lead vessel," he ordered. "All weapons, maximum power." The Zalarian ships fired simultaneously, throwing everything they had at the human flagship. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked across space. But the human ships were ready. Their shields flickered with colors similar to what the scout ships had shown, but far stronger. The Zalarian weapons barely made an impact. "No effect, Commander," reported Zexala, her voice shaking. Their shields absorbed everything. Before Vexthor could issue another order, the human fleet responded. But instead of destroying the Zalarian ships, they fired precisely at weapon systems and engines. Within moments, all 19 alien vessels were drifting, disabled but intact. "They've neutralized all our offensive capabilities," Subcommander Drez reported. "Engines are offline. We're completely at their mercy." Vexthor slumped in his command chair. It was over. His career, possibly his life, finished in humiliating defeat. "The human admiral is hailing us again," said the communications officer. With no other options, Vexthor nodded. On screen, Admiral Chen's face appeared once more. "Your ships have been disabled. We could have destroyed them, but that's not our way. We offer terms." Terms? The Zalarian commander couldn't believe what he was hearing. In the hegemony, defeated enemies weren't offered terms, they were conquered or destroyed. "What terms?" he asked cautiously. Your crew will be treated according to our laws governing prisoners of war, Chen said. Your wounded will receive medical attention. You will serve as representatives in diplomatic negotiations between our worlds. Vexthor blinked in confusion. You're not going to kill us? Admiral Chen looked genuinely surprised. No, that's not how humanity conducts itself. We fought because you attacked, but our goal isn't extermination. Captain Maya Rodriguez watched from the bridge of the Pathfinder as Earth's main fleet surrounded the disabled alien vessels. Her scout ships formed a perimeter, ensuring no alien vessels could escape. They really thought we were the main defense force, Lieutenant Commander Tanaka said, shaking his head in disbelief. A reasonable assumption, Maya replied. In their society, they probably don't send scientific vessels with advanced defensive capabilities. They don't understand how humans think. She looked at the massive Earth battleships, now attaching tractor beams to the alien vessels. We've always had to be creative. Throughout our history, we've turned tools into weapons when needed and weapons into tools when possible. Our scout ships are explorers first, but they can fight when necessary. Her communications officer called out, Captain, Admiral Chen is requesting your presence aboard the Defender. You're to bring the alien commander for the initial diplomatic meeting. Maya nodded. Prepare a shuttle. It seems I'm about to make history, the first human to formally negotiate with an alien species. Commander Vexthor was escorted through the human flagship by armed guards. He had expected prison, torture, or execution. Instead, he was being taken to a diplomatic meeting. Nothing about these humans made sense to him. They entered a large room with a round table. Admiral Chen was there, along with several other humans, in different uniforms. And to his surprise, Captain Rodriguez, the leader of the scout ships that had first defeated his fleet. Commander Vexthor, Admiral Chen said, gesturing to a seat. Please join us. Cautiously, he sat down. I don't understand. Why am I here? Captain Rodriguez spoke up. To learn about each other, to prevent further conflict. But we attacked you, Vexthor said, confused by their behavior. In the hegemony, that would mean... We're not the hegemony, Chen interrupted. Humans do things differently. Yes, you attacked and we defended ourselves. But now we have choices about what happens next. She activated a display showing Earth. This is our home. Our only home. We will protect it at all costs. But we don't seek conquest or destruction if there are alternatives. Vexthor looked around the table at the humans. They had utterly defeated his forces, yet they were treating him with respect. It was unlike anything in his experience. There's something else you should know, Maya said, activating another display. This one showed the solar system, with small dots representing ships. These are just our local defense forces. Earth has colony ships and outposts in several neighboring star systems, though none as advanced as our homeworld yet. Vexthor felt the blood drain from his face. The hegemony had assumed this was a single-planet civilization, if humans had already begun expanding to other stars. Your technology, he said quietly. It's far beyond what a Class 3 civilization should possess. Admiral Chen smiled slightly. We don't know what a Class 3 civilization is, but humans have always been good at innovating, especially when necessary. Our shield technology, gravity, weapons, propulsion systems, they're all relatively recent developments. And these were your scout ships, Vexthor said almost to himself. Not warships. Explorers, Maya corrected. Ships designed to discover, not conquer. But when threatened, we adapted them for defense. The alien commander finally understood the full magnitude of his error. He had not just underestimated human technology, but human nature itself. They were explorers who could fight, scientists who could become warriors when needed, and now, victors who offered peace instead of annihilation. The hegemony needs to know this, he said finally. They'll send more ships when we don't return. Admiral, Chen nodded. That's why we're having this conversation. You're going to help us establish diplomatic relations with your people. It would be better for everyone if we can avoid further conflict. As the meeting continued, Vexthor realized that the humans weren't just militarily powerful. They were something the hegemony had never encountered before, a species that could have destroyed them but chose not to, a civilization that offered terms instead of demanding surrender. And all of this after they had only faced a handful of human scout ships. 1 month had passed since the battle near Earth's moon. Commander Vexthor stood by a large window in the Earth Diplomatic Center, watching the busy human city below. They had not imprisoned him as he expected. Instead, they kept him as a diplomatic guest while negotiations continued. The door opened and Captain Maya Rodriguez entered. She had been assigned as his guide and liaison during his stay. "Good morning, Commander," she said. "I hope you slept well." Vexthor turned from the window. "As well as one can sleep knowing that the Grand Sovereign has likely ordered my execution for failure." Maya offered a sympathetic smile. "That's actually what I came to discuss. Admiral Chen has requested your presence. There's news from your homeworld." The commander followed her to a hover transport that took them to a large building with the Earth Defense Force symbol. Inside, they were led to Admiral Chen's office. The admiral sat behind her desk, along with several other high-ranking officers. "Commander Vexthor," Chen greeted him. "Please sit down. We've received a transmission from the Zolarian hegemony." Vexthor sat stiffly, preparing himself for the worst. "They've sent a punishment fleet, haven't they?" To his surprise, Admiral. Chen shook her head. "No, they've sent diplomats." She activated a screen showing a Zolarian vessel in Earth orbit. It was not a warship but one of the hegemony's diplomatic cruisers, ornately decorated with the symbols of peaceful contact. "But how?" Vexthor asked, confused. "The hegemony has never negotiated with a species that defeated its forces." "Because we sent them this," Chen replied, bringing up another image. It showed the complete recording of the battle, from the first encounter with the scout ships to the final confrontation with Earth's main fleet. Along with it was a message composed by human diplomats with Vexthor's help, explaining that despite the conflict, humans wished for peaceful relations. "We also sent some of your crew home 2 weeks ago as a gesture of goodwill," Maya added. "They confirmed everything in your reports." Vexthor couldn't believe what he was hearing. "And the Grand Sovereign accepted this? He's willing to negotiate?" A new voice spoke from the doorway. The Grand Sovereign had little choice. Vexthor turned to see Sub-Commander Drez entering alongside, a tall, elaborately dressed Zolarian, Ambassador Krenva, one of the hegemony's most senior diplomats. The commander jumped to his feet and bowed deeply. "Ambassador, I did not expect to see you here." Ambassador Krenva moved into the room with the flowing grace of Zolarian nobility. "Things have changed significantly since your mission began, Commander. Your reports caused quite a stir in the High Council." The ambassador turned to Admiral Chen. "With your permission, Admiral, I would like to speak frankly to the commander." Chen nodded. "Of course." Krenva faced Vexthor again. "When your initial reports arrived describing defeat at the hands of human scout ships, many called for your immediate replacement. But then we received the full data, and more importantly, the humans' diplomatic message." He gestured to the humans in the room. "Do you understand what has happened, Commander? For the first time in 800 cycles, the hegemony is facing a species that could potentially be our equal, or even our superior." Vexthor glanced at the humans. "I've come to the same conclusion, Ambassador. Their technology, their tactics—" "It's more than that," Krenva interrupted. "Their approach is fundamentally different from ours. Where we conquer, they explore. Where we would destroy a defeated enemy, they offer terms." The ambassador looked thoughtfully at Admiral Chen. "In your failure, Commander, you've actually given the hegemony something valuable, a new perspective." Later that day, Captain Rodriguez took Commander Vexthor on a tour of the lunar base that his fleet had intended to destroy. As they walked through its corridors, he saw humans working alongside members of his own crew, who had been treated and now helped with repairs to both human and Zolarian vessels. "I still don't understand," Vexthor said, as they observed engineers from both species examining each other's technology. "Why show us all this? Why not just force us to leave your system and never return?" Maya smiled. Because that's not how humans operate. Throughout our history, we've learned that understanding each other is better than fearing each other. You came as conquerors, but we see potential allies. She led him to a large hangar where he stopped in shock. There sat the SRS Pathfinder, the scout ship that had led the defense against his fleet. But it was different now. Parts of its hull had been redesigned, incorporating elements of Zellarian technology. "What is this?" he asked. "A collaborative project," Maya explained. "Your engineers suggested some improvements to our shield systems. In return, we helped them understand our gravity manipulation technology." Vexthor shook his head in amazement. "In the hegemony, we take technology from conquered worlds. We don't share it." "And how has that worked for you?" Maya asked gently. The commander had no answer. For thousands of years, the hegemony had grown through conquest, taking rather than learning, imposing rather than exchanging. Yet these humans, in just a few weeks, had made innovations that Zellarian scientists might have taken years to develop on their own. "There's something else you should see," Maya said, leading him to another section of the base. They entered a vast chamber where a new ship was under construction. It was unlike anything Vexthor had seen before. Larger than Earth's battleships, but incorporating elegant elements of Zellarian design. "This will be the first joint human-Zellarian vessel," Maya explained. "A true explorer ship designed for deep space missions. Both our species working together." "And my people agreed to this?" Vexthor asked in disbelief. "Ambassador Krenva suggested it," she replied. "He seems to understand what we've been trying to explain, that there are alternatives to conquest." That evening, a formal reception was held to welcome the Zellarian diplomatic delegation. Admiral Chen gave a speech about new beginnings and mutual respect. Ambassador Krenva spoke of evolving beyond old paradigms and learning from unexpected teachers. As the event concluded, Vexthor found himself standing with Maya and looking at a large display showing Earth's solar system, with small markers indicating human outposts and colonies. "What will happen to me now?" he asked quietly. "Will I be allowed to return home?" Maya turned to him. "Actually, we have a different proposal. Admiral Chen and Ambassador Krenva have discussed your situation extensively." She handed him a data pad. On it was an official document bearing both human and Zellarian seals. "They're offering you command of the joint mission," she explained. "Your experience with both cultures makes you uniquely qualified." Vexthor stared at the document in shock. "They want me to command the new ship? After I tried to conquer your world? Who better?" Maya asked. "You've seen firsthand what happens when you underestimate a species, and you've learned what cooperation can achieve." She smiled. "Besides, I'll be there as your first officer to keep you in line." For the first time since entering the solar system, Commander Vexthor laughed. It was a genuine sound of surprise and perhaps hope. "So instead of execution for my failure, I get a new ship and a new mission," he said, shaking his head in wonder. "That's how humans do things," Maya replied. "We learn from our mistakes and move forward, not backward." 6 months later, the joint vessel Harmony left Earth orbit on its maiden voyage. On its bridge stood Commander Vexthor and First Officer Maya Rodriguez looking out at the stars ahead. Behind them on the main screen, a transmission from Earth showed Admiral Chen and Ambassador Krenva watching the historic launch. "The Grand Sovereign has asked me to convey a message," the ambassador said. "He wishes to acknowledge that our initial assessment of human civilization was flawed." Admiral Chen nodded. "As was our expectation of first contact. We've both learned valuable lessons." Vexthor turned to Maya as the transmission ended. "Do you think other species in the galaxy will make the same mistake we did?" "Probably," she replied with a smile. "It seems to be a universal tendency to underestimate others." The commander looked at the mixed crew of humans and Zellarians working together on the bridge. "Then perhaps our mission should include a warning. Beware of humans bearing scout ships." Maya laughed. "I think a better message might be, judge, not by appearances but by potential. After all, that's what brought us here." As the Harmony accelerated toward distant stars, carrying representatives of two once hostile species now working together, Commander Vexthor reflected on how completely he had misjudged the humans. He had come to their solar system expecting easy conquest and instead found not just a powerful adversary but eventually a worthy ally. All because he had made the mistake of thinking he was fighting their warriors when he had only encountered their scouts. A mistake the rest of the galaxy would soon learn not to make. The end.